Welcome to the Bedrock Way podcast, where we're changing the habits of yesterday by creating the new healthcare reality of tomorrow. And Jonathan, today we have a special guest, and we're going to have a ton of fun today. I have someone who shares an old adage that I was always told is something that I live by. My mom always told me one thing, Jonathan. She told me, I will never be skinny because I love to eat, and I will never be lonely because I love to talk. And my guest for today, for our 10th episode, and if you told me that we would be doing a 10th episode in the summer, I would told you were crazy. But right now, I can't wait for my 100th episode. So with me today, I have the renowned, probably one of the most renowned elder law attorneys in South New Jersey, Justin Lee Scott, as he calls himself, JLS ESQ. Welcome to the Bedrock Way podcast, Justin. So happy to have you.
Thanks so much for the invite. This is awesome. This is really a lot of fun.
And we're going to have a lot of fun. The fun is just starting. So tell me, what does an elder law attorney do?
We change lives by helping people understand legal, financial, clinical issues, all the issues in aging. And by doing so, we help them have a quality of life that they would not have otherwise. And it's a conversation, and it's not a rushed conversation. It takes time. It's the idea that we are an advocate when you need one most. Nobody likes an aggressive attorney until they need one. But when it's time to get off that couch, when it's time to make a difference, that's when we step up, stand out, and we demand. We pound our fist and say, through care conferences, through supports, whether it's hearing aids or Medicare changes or whatever we're doing, this person is a life. We don't do contract law where it's just paper. We deal with people, and that's the difference.
And I want to make sure that I have the opportunity to really get in that brain of JLS and make sure that we helped our audience, number one, with a very important topic, which is elder law attorney planning, right? One thing that when I think of an elder law attorney, I think of planning. And people don't start planning until they're old, right? People don't start planning until they're old. People don't start planning until they need to plan.
They're waiting for that get off the couch moment. What does it take?
Exactly. And usually that get off the couch doesn't happen very graciously. If anything, you're pushed off the couch.
Right. Mom falls once, not a big deal. She falls twice, she's good for her age. She falls 3 times, we better do something now. Right now. Hurry, because Thanksgiving's coming or some holiday's coming.
And you're right. And the reason we wanted to do the podcast with you as a guest, because the timing couldn't be better. And I always say one thing. In the autumn season, the only thing that should be falling is the leaves, not our seniors.
That's exactly right.
And I think one thing that we can do is be proactive and make sure our seniors don't fall. So let's get right into it. I got a really fancy bio in front of me, and I'll go through your accolades in a second because they're impressive. But I just want you to tell my audience, Justin, this is important. Why do we need to discuss legal strategies with our seniors?
1 out of 1 people die. It's very important. You have a 1 in 7 chance of dementia. You have a 75% chance of needing some form of long-term care before you pass away. The clock is ticking. The question is, what is your plan? We say at my law firm, every life deserves a plan. What is your plan? What are you trying to do? What do you want to see happen? What do you want to see not happen? What are your goals?
So if your market share is everyone with a pulse and a human being, why don't people take advantage of elder law planning? Why don't people take advantage of asset planning? Why don't people do this? Why do people wait to the last minute?
You know what's funny is in America it feels so good to do nothing, right? We're kind of a spoiled culture. So it's the guy that invented the rotisserie oven years ago. He said, just set it and forget it. You just threw your turkey in the oven and there you go. You didn't have to put any effort into it. And so people like things done for them, but we don't know what we don't know. Elder law is kind of a new kid on the block. It's only been around since the 80s because people didn't live this long as they are now. They're living longer. They're running out of money. They're seeing issues. And so the typical run-of-the-mill estate planning attorney doesn't suffice anymore. It's easy to make a will because we all know we're going to die, but the hard path is what's going to happen before you die. What does that decline look like? And how do we build supports to have the highest and best quality of life as long as possible for our families, for our people that we love and care about?
But it's, when should it start, Justin? Because I'll tell you, I am 45 years old. You're a little younger than I am. Jonathan's a little younger than I am as well. I started planning for my older age when I was in my 20s. So why can't we start having this prep in our 20s and 30s and educate people that the earlier they start, right, mitigating these issues, the better long term. I think even you're being called an elder law attorney, and to your point, it's come about the fact that people are living longer. I get it. But I think there's a misconception that, again, this is something that only applies to older adults. And I think that is a misinterpretation that does you guys a disservice.
That's it. I mean, when I got started in elder law, I thought I would be working with Estelle Gettys of the world. I had no idea I'd see people in their 50s with dementia. I had no idea I'd be with a 23-year-old that was in an auto accident and there was no power of attorney in place, and the girlfriend didn't have guardianship or anything, had no idea what to do. So the answer to the question is quite simple. The more time you give an elder law practitioner to put together your estate planning, whether it's simple, complex, whatever your goals are, the more time we have to plan, the less time you need to panic.
Number one resistance, Justin, is that it's too expensive. I can't afford it.
Right.
I can't afford it. And I think the counter we all know is you can't afford not to do it.
Exactly.
But tell me why, again, we talked about the nomenclature that is after your name, which is elder, which I think is something that probably needs to matriculate to something that's more global, universal. But we're also seeing the problem of fiscal, socioeconomic restrictions, which I think is the biggest misconception. Because I think most of the people, correct me if I'm wrong, that you help are not socioeconomically well. But
Right.
there are programs that you are able to access. And I think that's where elder law, for me, has its maximum bang for its buck, literally, because the fact that it opens up the access to programs that people just are not aware of.
Right. There's tons of dollars available through grants and programs with the government. We're talking about taking assets, restructuring them in such a capacity that we're able to, there's an old saying in Virginia, have your cake and eat it too. And I never knew what that meant until I got into elder law. But sometimes having your cake is being able to use a trust fund or create asset protection mechanisms, and eating your cake too is being able to benefit from government programs that people have paid into their whole lives. They just don't know how to navigate, and they don't have an advocate in their corner to help them gain access and eligibility for these programs.
I will never understand how people are become educated or even not educated, but you're working your whole life and you don't do anything to protect your assets.
Right.
And I think that's what it comes down to it. And let me just go into your bio, because I'm looking at your bio. I'm holding it right now. And you're a smart dude, and I want to emphasize a couple of things that I think are unique to you, because I think my guests, having you on a podcast for an hour or so, and having my guests, or I should say my audience, listen to the guests, the whole aspect of this is for us to be practical and for us to be able to help our listeners, and hence they help their families immediately right after the podcast. So let me just talk to you guys about Justin Lee Scott and just his level of interest, his education, his awards, and something that I think is unknown by some of the people who know Justin or may know of Justin is the fact that he's a published author of 10 books that are currently available on Amazon. And he's passionate about this, and aging for him has become not a job, not a career, not a paycheck, but really a lifestyle. And it's something that he advocates tremendously in the community, and I've seen him present a couple of times. And again, he's doing God's work, and a lot of times where attorneys are not considered to do God's work, right? They're considered to do the other guy's job. Some key points of interest for Justin: he's certified in life resource planning. He manages currently a caseload approximately 400, and that's a rolling caseload. I'm sure it goes up sometimes in the year. He was selected as the top 2% and top 100 attorney. Continuing education presented for nurses, social workers, case managers, and other healthcare professionals. He does a ton of CEUs. I've attended a few of them. He was the founder of South Jersey Masterminds, which is an invitation-only professional networking group. He received his JD, his Juris Doctorate degree, from Liberty University School of Law. Also received an MBA certificate. So the guy knows business acumen. He knows law. He's able to guide his clients based on the fact that he knows the legal and the business aspects of law. He also went to Liberty for his undergrad. I'm a big fan of Liberty University, where he got his start in politics and policy after being raised in Roanoke, Virginia. Basically a military, community, correct?
Yeah, it is. There's a big presence there.
I love Roanoke, Virginia. So currently he's the principal attorney at Scott Counsel PC. He's the CEO of Scott Holdings LLC. And some awards that Justin is known for or has received in the last couple of years, and I wanted to really pontificate these from a mountaintop because I think, again, they are unique to Justin. Is he was a 2019 and 2020 New Jersey Magazine top elder law attorney. In 2019, South Jersey Magazine gave him the Awesome Attorney Award. In 2016, AVVO, whoever that is, Client Choice Award recipient, which I'm sure is a legal entity, and top 2% of legal professionals, top tier lawyers, and again, top 100 attorney in the top 100 magazine. My goodness, Justin, how have you accomplished so much at such a young age?
I'm trying to do the right thing at the right time for the people that are aging, because I know one day I'm going to be there too. Every time I walk into a nursing home, I see that your entire life, whether you have one house, 10 houses, whatever your lot is, it comes down to, for a lot of people, a hospital bed and a little chest of drawers sitting right next to it and a lamp. And so at the end of the day, it's all about the person, not the stuff.
It's something that cracks me up about you, and I love, is that you have that little twang from Virginia, and you talk like this. And, sometimes people say that people who have that Southern accent, they're honest. They're honest, and they tell the truth, and you should believe them. Why are lawyers generally not trusted?
I think the reason is because there has been generations of bad study in school. What you learn in school is theory, and what we have to learn out in the field is practice. And when you're an elder law attorney, we're a little different in the sense that we have to have bedside manner. If you don't care, if you're not passionate about a family, if you're not used to saying the same thing to an 85-year-old woman that's starting with dementia 15 times, get out of the field, do something different, because you don't care. You have to care. You have to relate to your clients, every one of them, because they're all humans.
So I will tell you, I'm going to rephrase the question, because I want you to get down and dirty with me today. There's a perception of attorneys, and the perception of attorneys varies widely. And it varies widely among individuals that can be influenced by personal experiences, cultural factors, media portrayal, and more. Right? We're really hot right now with the political sensationalism of lawyers is polarizing. Right? If you're on one side, lawyers suck. If you're on the other side, lawyers are amazing. While not everyone hates attorneys, there are several reasons why some people might hold negative views of them. Tell me 3 of them. In your opinion, why people hold negative views of them?
Well, I think the number one, without a doubt, is most lawyers never call their clients back. I remember in law school, I had a professor that said, if you call your clients back, you'll do great. It's very important to have great communication. Lawyers are terrible at that. Another big thing is that, with all due respect, clients wait too long for that get off the couch moment, and it's much cheaper to tie a bow than it is to untie a knot. And so they wait for a hard knot. It makes it difficult on the attorney to put together a case, a strategy. And a lot of times clients are upset at what the cost of that is, because it takes many man-hours to do that, to make that happen, to be able to have a successful outcome. And then lastly, I would say the biggest problem we have in our profession is we have a high suicide rate, we have high alcoholism, we have so many lawyers out there that are my brothers and sisters in the law that are struggling because it is a very high stress profession. We literally take everybody's burdens and put it on our shoulders, and that's how we make a living. And so you have to be clinical. You have to be able to handle that and process that and see bad things and produce good outcomes.
So something I wanted to do today, Justin, because I'm a big fan of what you do. And I think something that we can do and really platform ourselves today is to be able to offer their service. I don't think this is a platform for us to validate your services. I think what we need to do is open this up for people to use your services more. Not because we want to grow your practice, but because you need to be able to advocate for more people. Mm-hmm. And so I pulled up a few reasons, the top 5 reasons why people don't trust attorneys in general. And the number one reason is cost and fees. Legal services can be expensive, and there's a perception that attorneys charge high fees, and that leads to frustration or resentment. That's why people don't get off the couch the way attorneys would like to, especially if people feel that they're not getting their value for their money, right? And just like the last person in medical school is called a doctor, the last person in law school is called a lawyer. So tell me a little bit about how can we nullify that misconception that every lawyer is just looking to nickel and dime you and they care about the mighty dollar and not the client, because that is the number one reason why there's mistrust. And I think you're in such a good position to really nullify and really put that to bed and say, hey, listen, there's so much value in what I do. And when there's value present, pricing becomes irrelevant.
Yeah, it's all about return on investment. And I think that's where elder law is so much deviated from the other classes or other specialties in the law. It's the idea that if you come to me and let's say mom owns a house or has a bank account, even if it's with 10, 20 grand in it, we can do trust planning. We can help protect those assets and allow the person to get the care they need through Medicare, through Medicaid, through VA benefits, through other grants, through programs. We can help them get that highest and best quality of life. And that's not just a blanket statement. It's the idea that we can help people age better. And we do that through the law, through planning. And so there's always a return on investment. If it's not dollars, it's care. And so for some of my clients, if I'm honest, it's more about protecting the money. But for other clients, it's about highest quality of care. And so we have to accomplish both. And that's why in our firm, we try to handle legal, financial, and clinical under one roof. We have a registered nurse. We associate with physicians. We work with you guys, obviously. We're always concerned about how to holistically help someone achieve better aging outcomes.
Love it. Love it. So let me just go through this list real quick, because I want to jump into what an elder law attorney actually does.
Right.
Because I think there's a lot of people on the line who understand what you do, but we have a lot of listeners who are non-healthcare, and because they're young, they never think they're going to get old. And this is something that does not apply. And a lot of these things, unfortunately, in life, they don't become important to you until they show up in your front door. So number one, so we talked about cost and fees. Number two, there's a conflict and adversarial nature about attorneys, because again, the legal system is an adversarial system where there are, lawyers represent opposing sides. So sometimes it's about, winning over pursuing justice. So that's sometimes that creates negative feelings. You mentioned the number 3 reason, which is miscommunication and complexity. I think sometimes legal guidelines and policies and a lot of things are just tough to interpret, and people feel like some lawyers, just fancy talk them, and then they get more confused than anything else, or get help. They also mentioned that there is just stereotypes. Lawyers are sometimes depicted negatively in media as being aggressive, manipulative, or dishonest individuals. And I do think that is a stereotype. And it's a stereotype that's sensationalized with all of the TV shows that we see out there. So I don't know how much we can do about that, especially as we're seeing some in the mainstream right now. But the one number 5, the reason number 5, and I researched this before we started today, and this is, Justin, where you stand above the crowd. I don't care how many books you've written. I don't care what education you have, how many credentials you have after your name. Right? I really don't. Mm-hmm. But you have something that nobody else has, at least not as good as you have. And number 5 is a perceived lack of empathy.
That's huge.
And I think
you have
your bedside manner, the level of empathy, and the fact that you care Some people might feel that attorneys are more interested in legal technicalities than in understanding and empathizing with their clients' emotional experiences. Just explaining to them, just treating them like a human being and
Right.
not a billable hour. How were you able to do that? And I want a follow-up question to that. How were you able to make it profitable? Because it seems like the biggest issue with attorneys needing to unfortunately not have empathy because they have to move faster and they have to pile on more work just to maintain their livelihood. Not that I need to get into the business model of an attorney, but that is something that is unique to you, and you wouldn't be sitting in that chair if I didn't understand and believe in your superior level of empathy that I think is really your reputation.
Well, there's a big sign that hangs in my office, and it's on the second floor. When you come down the steps, every paralegal, every staff member sees it. It says, work hard and be nice to people, and that's the easiest way I can say it. If you do those things, profitability finds its way. Money is something that must happen in a business. That's part of society. But the truth of it is, if you do right by the client, my phone rings off the hook with people that are coming back to me. They go, you help mom, now you got to help dad. You help dad, now you got to help his brother. You help the brother, you get the point. I could go on and on and on. And it's because if you do right by the client by doing those basic things, and every staff member believes and every staff member relates. We have retreats, we have meetings where we just talk about family members that each paralegal or each staff member has dealt with and how much it's impacted them, how much it made a difference in their lives, to know the right steps to tie that bow instead of untying that knot.
I agree. Listen, I think a lot of us go into our careers because we see it as a means to an end. And the old adage, again, on if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I see that in you. And it's incredible. I mean, if we want to look at what the components of what makes a great attorney, what makes a great attorney is the ability to connect with your client. Because at the end of the day, it's just like any relationship, whether it's platonic, romantic, whatever. You have to be able to establish a few things: a good communication line, right? You want to build affinity with the client where you like each other. And there has to be a tremendous amount of two things: respect, and you have to be in the same reality. So I think sometimes with clients, even our patients, right, in the practice, they're not in the same reality as we are. But if you have those, I call it the triangulation of relationships. Respect, communication, affinity brings the most powerful fundamental of a relationship, which is based on trust. Mm-hmm. How do you build trust with your clients to make sure that not only, again, you're taking care of people's livelihood and sometimes, again, their life savings.
Yeah.
I think about that, Justin. Mm-hmm. Someone, especially nowadays, a post-depression kid, a traditionalist who lived through the worst, and now they're looking to protect their assets. You have that person's entire 70, 80, 90 years in your hands. How do you get people to trust you to do that?
It's how you eat an elephant. It's one bite at a time. It's one day at a time. And what I tell people is it's a cruise ship, not a speedboat. It's a journey that we have to go on together. So it starts with something as simple as documents, and it ends with standing in line at the viewing at the funeral home. It is a journey. Trust takes time. But if you build it, it's unbelievable the outcome and how rewarding it is to me more than the paycheck.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about today, because I when it comes to people's money, and I've always said, there's two things that you cannot mess with. Mm-hmm. One of them is my kids, and one of them is my pocket. When you mess with my kids or you mess with my pocket, you're going to lose 100% of the time. And I don't envy your position, because in your position, you're messing with both.
It's
right?
true.
When you're representing family members, you're
That's
messing
true.
with someone's kids, and you're messing with their pocket. So I want you to walk my audience on the legal challenges that you face when you are basically the arbiter, but at the times, the one with the feet on the fire on that term that we always call the family dynamic.
Well, you know what? I always say this in my conference room when it's starting to get heated. There's an old saying, if these walls could talk. right? My conference room should be haunted with families fighting because, again, people wait too late. We either plan or we panic in life. And so when you don't plan ahead and you don't lay out your wishes, someone dies, and then the family's in there fighting saying, Mom wanted this, no, Mom wanted that. I had a case one time where it was two sisters fighting over the religious service at the funeral, what it would be, what it wouldn't be, and a judge had to decide that never met her. Nobody wants to end up that way. You deserve dignity throughout your entire life, even when you're not here.
It's incredible to see that families sometimes become your bigger obstacle. But let's dive deeper into that, right? Let's dive deeper into that. And when we're dealing with a family member, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say I'm dealing with a family member who has healthcare proxy over their family member, right?
Sure.
Power of attorney, healthcare proxy, and they're making a decision that you disagree with. What do you do in that aspect to make sure that your wishes and the wishes of the family member, or I should say your client, who is not the family member that has power of attorney, healthcare proxy, are met?
Well, that's a tough one there because you have to be careful because you really have to understand what did the person want. And you know what? Listen, some people, you have to give people enough rope to hang themselves. There are a lot of people that when they're terminal, when the things are bad, they want to be out of this world. There are other people that probably wish they could be like the old myth of Walt Disney that he's frozen on ice. It depends. It's all about dignity, and it's not just a blanket word or a statement, but we have to figure that out. And if we feel like anything is happening that deviates from what the client wanted, we pursue court action, court intervention, and make sure that that person's wishes are wanted. I have a client right now that had no documents in place. He's completely demented. It's a very sad situation because we have to move the court in order to have a DNR in place because we know that he would go through horrific measures to recover him, and it would just be a disaster to do it. And so, but we don't know what he wants. We don't know. We don't have it in writing. So people wait so late. And dementia makes it so tough for somebody like me because once somebody has advanced to the advanced stages, there's not much we can do but guess.
And here's the issue, bud. I think the compounding problem with not only the delay of your clients is that, you know, I was researching something over the weekend in advance of our sit down, and there's a term that's being injected in law schools around the country. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but it's called customer service in law. Mm-hmm. Customer service in law, and they're actually teaching lawyers, prospective lawyers, to learn customer service. Because like as you mentioned, a lot of the times you're dealing with not only legal obstacles, but you're just dealing with a population right now that really mitigates a lot of things in the public court of opinion, but also deals with the sensationalism of their feelings, mm-hmm. right? Sometimes it's not what you say, but how you say it.
Absolutely.
So these are the things that they recommend for customer service, and I want to hear your take on this. We mentioned one of them. I'll list the top 5. And a good customer service attorney, and I think you have a lot of these, but I want to hear your take on it because, again, I think being a good attorney is you measure your own ethics and your own competence, but I think sometimes you measure the competence and ethics of others because, unfortunately, one attorney can give all attorneys a bad name.
Absolutely.
So they mentioned the following 5 things. They mentioned communication. So clear and timely communication is crucial. It's the number one thing. Lawyers need to keep clients informed about the progress of their cases, explain the legal terms in understandable language, and be prompt to respond to inquiries. And I think again, we talked about that, and you're incredible at that. Next one is responsiveness. Clients appreciate attorneys who are responsive to their needs and concerns. And you mentioned in law school, they said to you, you'll be a great attorney if you return your clients' calls, which is comical, but it isn't. Number 3, transparency. Being open and transparent about the legal process, potential outcomes, and costs can help manage your client expectations and build trust. I want to get back to that in a minute because I think sometimes, again, there's a environment where some young attorneys will hump a file for days and weeks and months, and the transparency lacks. But I'll get back to that. We talked about empathy. Attorneys who show empathy and understanding towards their client situations can create more positive client experience. We know that. But here's the one that I don't understand why this is being taught in law school. Because to me, it should be inherent and it should be understood. And that's ethical behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Upholding high ethical standards is an essential part of providing quality customer service in the legal profession. Clients want to trust that their attorneys are acting in their best interest. I don't know if you know this, Justin, but attorneys are being arrested, right? And they're being put feet to the fire legally because of their unethical behaviors. And there's an increase of that in the last 5 years. Why?
I think the stress of the economy we've watched the economy change for a lot of small practices. You know, before the recession of '08, most attorneys worked in large firms that had financial managers that managed their firm's responsibilities. Today, more than 60% of attorneys are solos. They're out on their own. And just because you're a lawyer and you're smart because you're a lawyer doesn't mean you're great at business and you're great at everything else. And so that's those stressors. I've seen elder law attorneys be put in orange jumpsuits because they stole money from a client. And you're exactly right when you say worrying about kids and pockets, because that's exactly the case that we see over and over again. But it has to be taught. We have to have a high standard of ethics, but we also have to look at the state bars and expect the state bars to modernize ethical rules around the internet, how money's exchanging hands through technology, through all kinds of things. But we don't necessarily have that because what we do is so advanced and so new, it's not commonplace, that we're really navigating a sea of information and, again, technology that we just have to evolve as a profession.
So how do you do that? So I'm the prospective lawyer, right? I'm going to law school right now, and I have an interest in elder law, but I don't want to go, or any law for that matter. But I don't want to go into. You're telling me you're a seasoned attorney. You're telling me that a lot of the things that you guys have to abide by are antiquated, archaic, which quite frankly creates landmines for you in the legal world. And because you're in a position of trust, your level of adjudication is probably more than the normal person.
Right.
So again, I'm a young attorney. Let's play the game. I'm a young prospective attorney, promising attorney. Mm-hmm. I'm spending a lot of time and money and effort in becoming an attorney, and you tell me that, and the potential of going to prison, being incarcerated, being in a jumpsuit. What would you tell me? Because that would be my I'm going to go do something else.
Well, you know, we do have what's called the MPRE, which is an ethics exam, and I do think that that's more beneficial than even the bar exam, because that allows you to really see not what religion would do, not what the Easter Bunny would do or whatever, but what do we say as a profession? What is professional responsibility? What does that look like ethically? And then those create a foundation, and from there we navigate as best we can. And just because attorneys have issues at times doesn't make them bad attorneys. They do the best that they can do, and it's an opinion of the state bars, and that's how we learn. It's not something that we criticize. It's how we learn. It's how we grow as a profession.
Beautiful, and I wanted you to say that. The Multi-State Professional Responsibility Examination, the MPRE, which is what Justin referred, is a 2-hour, 60-question multiple-choice examination that is administered 3 times per year. It was developed by the NCBE, and the MPRE is required for admission to the bar of all but 2 U.S. jurisdictions, Wisconsin and Puerto Rico. So I think that is a way that we can start nullifying the unethical behavior that is perceived of attorneys. Mm-hmm. The fact that you guys are held to a much higher standard than the usual person, because you guys are in a position where ethics and professional conduct are, again, can be questioned. So let's change gears a little bit. And you're someone who likes to have fun, And I know that I've seen some of your I follow you on social, and I'm a big fan. The fact that you play hard and party hard. We always talk about that work-life blend. But I almost feel sometimes, Justin, that you never turn it off. You never unplug, right? Because you're always on. You're always on. And I've been with you at different social events, after-hour events, and you seem to always be on. But that's not sustainable, right? It's good for you now in your 30s to be able to have this. But how, I talk about the sustainability of any professional is based on their balance of two things. And people say family and professional life. No, it's two things. One's called motivation, the other one's called discipline. Motivation, you do something because you want to do it and you're pumped up about doing it. There's passion behind it. And you only do it because you feel good doing it. That's motivation.
Right.
Discipline, you do it at no cost. You do it whether you want to do it or not. And you do it because you know it's the right thing, right? And discipline has to do more with integrity, which goes into the ethics. Motivation does it when you're interested in doing it, not necessarily when it's interesting. So how does Justin, number one, maintain for him forecast on the sustainability of him being able to always be on? And also, how do you stay disciplined in days or during months where motivation may not be at the highest?
Well, I have to say my daughter's my motivating factor. I was with her yesterday at orientation for starting kindergarten, and I stared at a room full of kids, and I thought, you know what? I looked around at all the technology they have now. It just blows your mind. They're learning Spanish, they're learning art, they're learning music, they're learning all the things that I would have loved to have had, back when I was a kid. And I just think about the next generation. And so I'm going to work hard every day to create a better aging process. But sometimes I do look at my daughter and I think, maybe I'll leave it in good hands. Maybe one day she'll want to step up and say, Dad, we just don't do it that way anymore. And I'm longing for that conversation. But whatever she becomes, I know she'll be a world changer. And that keeps me busy every day.
I love it. And I love that you mentioned your kids. We had a leadership exercise yesterday with our team. And I will tell you, Justin, how old is your daughter?
She's 5. She's almost 6.
Beautiful. I have 2 daughters, 12 and 9, and I have a son who's 17, teenager. And I will tell you, when it comes to, we talk about this all the time, when it comes to people that you admire, people that you look up to their leadership ability, people that you look up to their resilience, their tenacity, especially in the last couple of years with COVID, there's no one in my life right now that I look up to more than my kids. And my kids become my admiration. My kids become my motivation. My kids give me that inspiration. And I will tell you, I look at my kids, and they're the best versions of us. Mm-hmm. Aside from your 5-year-old daughter, who are some of the people that you look up to? Who is someone of your stature? So who's someone, you've written books, highly educated, very successful. Who keeps you going? And it could be a famous person. It could be, just, a layman. But someone like you, again, who never turns it off. You need to have those igniters, people who galvanize the energy.
Wow, that's a great question. I do a lot of reading. I just finished The Song of the Cell, and I forget the author's name, but it's just a beautiful book about oncology and the study of cancer. I know nothing about it. I confess, even having read it, I still need to probably read it 10 more times to understand. I finished the book Think Like a Monk, and it's all about thinking differently and thinking not like a monkey mentality, but a monk mentality, and it's fascinating. So I do a lot of reading. I'm not the best on picking someone because I don't know that you throw your lot behind somebody. People let us down, but theory and thought doesn't. And so for me, I'm always interested in theories, thoughts, quotes. I collect quote books, believe it or not. I have about 100 books that are just encyclopedias of quotes. And I love to just take out a quote book and read great thoughts that people have had, whether they were rich, whether they were famous, whether they were janitors. I don't care. I believe in Martin Luther King that if you are a street sweeper, you sweep streets so well that all the host of the heavens and the earth will pause and say there lived a good street sweeper. I'm very passionate about that. So,
okay, I'm going to ask the question a different way.
All right.
I'm going to ask the question a different way. right? Because you're not going to get away that easy. So that 5-year-old of yours asks you the question, Daddy, who do you look up to, and how did you become who you are today? And telling her that a bunch of rhetoric written on paper works is not going to work for her. That might work for me, but not her. So that 5-year-old says, Daddy, tell me who motivated you to be who you are today.
Well, I'll be honest with you. You're giving me chills right now because today is the 22nd anniversary of his death. I had an uncle that meant the world to me. His name was Rusty. And Rusty was a big banker in Virginia. He was the only one in my family that went to college. He was, I was the first on my side, my brother and I, to go to college, and I was the first to go to law school. And it's very odd that you're bringing that out today because he was a rock star. He lived every day to the fullest. He was a giver, not a taker. He was passionate about helping people, loving people, meeting them where they're at. And I have his golf ball sitting right behind my desk, and I have a picture of my grandparents because they motivate me. I helped every one of them age out of this earth with dignity and respect, and I'm proud of that. Those are the people that matter. And I'm glad you clarified that question because you've struck a chord in me, because that's who we should all admire. We should admire people that we know and have met, not just athletes, not just celebrities, but people that truly have touched our lives and left an impact, because I wouldn't be here today, not even close, without having their influence. And he died at 41 of a very horrible cancer. And I think about that because in the short, brief couple of years as a kid, he always called me partner. And I always said, one day I'll be a partner in a law firm. Maybe one day I'll be principal of a law firm. And that I never forgot him for that. And yep, today is the anniversary of his death, and he lives every day. My brother and I were talking about it even this morning. So yes, people touch your lives, and they don't have to be billionaires to do it.
I love it. And listen, that's a much better answer than tell me a quote book. Listen, Rusty's spirit, I think, is in this room. And Rusty's spirit is definitely a reflection of who you are today. And it's someone, again, that illuminates you in more ways than one, which is pretty incredible. And I will tell you, you kind of started down a path that I'm going to probably expedite right now, which is how you grew up. You know, what makes someone happy, what makes someone who they are is how they were brought up. And what makes, I'm not going to go into what makes you happy, because I think I know what makes you happy. Again, we know each other personally, but I think it would be great for the audience to get a quick glimpse of that young Justin. You know, when Justin was with Rusty and Rusty was calling you partner, and again, you could have gone many directions. Tell me a little bit about how you grew up in Roanoke, Virginia. And I always say, when you're an adult, it's a product of how you were raised, good, bad, or indifferent. So rather than ask somebody what they do, I always ask, Justin, what makes you happy, and tell me how you grew up, because that is a much more clear picture of who that person really is.
My parents love me without ceasing every day. I've talked to them today twice already. We talk every day. We have a wonderful relationship. So do I with my brother. Family meant something to us. And so we're always close. We've always been connected. And that has been such a difference in my life. Now, you go back to that Justin, you want to get a visual. Picture big Harry Potter glasses, a kid that was overweight, and I insisted on carrying a briefcase because I wanted to be a lawyer so bad when I was in the 6th grade, believe it or not. So that was Justin, a big geek who had a lot of love and had a lot of opportunity. And when I got in high school, I had the invite to meet the Queen of England. I had the invite to meet George W. Bush, John McCain, meet a lot of great people in our world, and that just changed my life forever. That trajectory is so important.
Speaking of trajectory, what's next for Justin?
You know what I'd love to do if I could really do it? I'd love to do a documentary. I'd love to show people, Andre, what we see every day. I'd love to show people that haven't experienced it yet why they really should get off that couch, why they really should plan, because you don't see it. You don't see that 23-year-old in that bed. You don't see that 53-year-old that's got $2 million, but they just been told they have Lewy body. You don't see the people that are laying in nursing homes without a $100 alternating pressure bed getting bed sores. You don't see the struggles that we're faced with every day. And until that's done, I don't think I'm done.
And, you know, I I agree with you in the principal aspect of the fact that we need to do things different, right? Because I think there's a tremendous amount of ignorance about preparing yourself for the fact that we're living longer, right? Modern medicine is keeping everybody alive longer.
Yep.
But one thing that I think was very clear in the last 3 years is that our morbidity is closer than we think, and that our fragility is a lot higher than we think. How are you changing your practice in the aftermath of COVID?
So we are focused right now. We've changed our software system in a tremendous way so that I know it sounds a little microscopic, but we want to have the most updated note profiles for all of our staff members so that we can plug and play with the family. So if someone's on the phone and they can barely talk, they're crying because of an issue, we already know because we can see where the last person had a phone call. We can see where the nurse called or the doctor called or a third-party professional called, and we can plug and play and relate. But that's technology. That's an advancement. We work with people through, obviously, Zoom meetings and that sort of thing, so we can attend care conferences without physically being there. We can do same-day meetings. We have 24/7 call service answering our phones. We don't play games. If people need help, we're there for them nights, weekends. That's the difference. That's what healthcare has to become. It has to be more than a paycheck or a copay. It's got to be focused on service, and it has to be focused on doing right by the families so that people live better, because we're all going to be there. We are preparing and digging our own grave. That's a true thing. We just better make sure we dig a good hole and that we do this thing right.
I agree. I think we're doing that on a daily basis. So I'm gonna throw you something right now that I throw all my guests. So what is your 30-second pitch if I meet you at Wawa and you're telling me what you do?
We help people make great decisions about the rest of their lives. Every life deserves a plan. What is your plan? What do you want to see happen in your life? What do you not want to see happen? Do you want to keep your family together? We answer the issues in aging: legal, financial, clinical. We're a general contractor for the elderly. We help people age better. We make a difference not just through paper, but through people, and that's our staff people. And that's how we change the course of aging, one client at a time.
Awesome. And how can people contact you? How can people have Justin and your skill set available to them? And what's your responsiveness when they do that?
Yeah, so go to scottelderlaw.com. And all of my books are free on there. The digital downloads are free. They belong to the world. I give my knowledge away. I want people to have access. We can do live chat. We can do free consult via phone 24 hours, 7 days a week. We answer the phone. So we're there for people when they need an advocate, when they need one most.
And can I just ask a question? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Sure.
Are your services, do you have a free consultation, or are the rates negotiable? Again, how does I took a poll before this online, and there were 3 reasons why people don't take advantage of elder law attorney skill sets, and they were as follows: cost. So tell me how they again contacting you, but is there a sticker shock to this?
No, not at all. So it's a free consultation, and I don't set a minute limit. So I'm there for you. If it takes me an hour and a half, I don't care. I want to spend time with people. I want to get to know you, know your circumstance, and illustrate to you the difference. We also do flat fees. I'm not that young associate that's going to, as you put it, hump into billing all these hours and that kind of thing. We do flat fees. I tell you up front the cost to do it right. Either we work together or we don't, but that's the cost to do it right. So we don't hide the ball. We're very straightforward. We care. We really do. And I think we bring a little bit of that Southern charm into the practice in making sure that everybody feels respected. They have their dignity, their wishes met, and we're there for you. We're not just billing machines. We are racehorses to help you age better.
So you are someone who loves your quotes, right? You love your motivational quotes. You love your being able to, again, possibly one day write your own quote book. I want to end this podcast with a quote that really defines who you are. Because I'll tell you right now, we're talking about Rusty today. But in hopefully not too soon of a time, 50, 100 years, we'll be talking about Justin. Maybe your 5-year-old will be talking about Justin's influence in her life. What would be the quote that would define Justin?
Robert Kennedy. Some people look at the way things are and ask why. Some people dream of things that never were and ask why not.
I love it. It was a pleasure to have you on this podcast, Justin. I enjoyed it a ton.
You're the best.
You are a class act.
Awesome.
And I look forward to continuing to work with you and join you in your mission to make sure that we do things different, that we evolve, that we are advocates. But at the end of the day, we're making a difference in an area where a difference needs to be made.
Absolutely.
And we are changing the habits of yesterday by creating the new healthcare reality of tomorrow. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate you.
Pleasure, as always.